Hi, my name is Josh Gottry. Welcome to today's weekly lesson. Today we're going to be talking about one of my publications. This is a collection entitled forFour. It's a set of 7 developmental etudes for the emerging 4-mallet marimbist. These are short etudes, most of them approximately 2 minutes in length, and each one progressively works on a different set of either technical or musical components. So this is a collection that's been around for about 10 years. It is published by Allen Publications. And again, it's a set of 7 independent etudes that can be performed individually or in sets or pairs. It is on the Texas UIL prescribed music list as well. So it's certainly available for performance at solo and ensemble, as well as studio recitals and things like that. So I'm just going to talk through some of the things that are in there, a little bit about each etude and what prompted me to write them, and a little bit about how the book is set up. So at the beginning of the text is a quick description of some of the 4-mallet grips that are most popular, the traditional grip, the Burton grip, and the independent Musser-Stevens grip. And then also the stroke types that are referenced in the book: double vertical strokes, single independent strokes, single alternating strokes, and double lateral strokes. And each of the pieces is then listed as far as which stroke types are used within each of those pieces. So just a little bit of introductory information. For each piece, there's an exercise page. There's usually a couple just straight technique development exercises that are included, and then a few exercises that I call piece preparation, which are either direct quotes from the piece that can be repeated just to kind of develop the touch and technique needed for that particular piece, or slight adjustments to those excerpts to make them into more of a developmental exercise, but with a nod to what's going to be encountered in the piece. So the first piece is called double dip. It's exclusively double vertical strokes throughout the piece, and for the majority of the piece, only one hand moves at a time. For about the first half, only the right hand moves. The left hand is a repeated open fifth. And then about a little short of 2/3 of the way through, the right hand becomes the stationary hand, and the left hand takes over the melody and becomes the moving voice. So it allows the student to work individual hand motion, and then just really focus on the double vertical stroke. There are no other stroke types in this piece other than the double vertical stroke, so you're able to really focus on a clear grip and consistent motion to execute that stroke. The second piece in the collection is called triple vision. Not surprisingly, it's in a compound meter, so you have triplet groupings. It's actually set in 12/8 time. And this one specifically works on single alternating strokes and single independent strokes. And so you get, again, mostly with stationary mallet motion. The left hand stays relatively static either on a C and a G during the portions of the piece that are set in C major, moves briefly to A minor, so the left hand moves to A and E, but for the most part the left hand remains static, playing a single alternating repeated pattern, and then the right hand often is involved in some sort of single independent stroke, playing the melody on top. So that's triple vision. The third piece in this collection is entitled The Little Mixer, and this again combines a little bit of those single independent strokes and the single alternating strokes, a little bit more with each hand, less isolated as is in triple vision. This one, the first two are isolated just to the natural notes on the keyboard, what would be considered C major or A minor. This one is specifically set on the upper manual of the keyboard, so only the pentatonic scale that exists on the black notes of the keys. Again, the intention of that is to allow less focus on the back and forth motion between the two manuals, or the elbow motion that might be required to manage those intervals that are going to span both the upper and lower manual. So a little mixer is focused on just the upper manual notes. So it looks like an intimidating key signature with 6 flats. But as you start to work the piece, you realize that it's actually fairly intuitive and falls very nicely both to the eyes and to the hands. The fourth etude in this set is entitled Feeling 1. Feeling 1 is set in 3/8 with a feel in 1 for the most part. There are a couple time signature changes in the piece, 4 measures that are in 4/4, and then a passage that's in 3/4. Feeling 1 uses double vertical strokes. Again, uses in very small intervals, deliberately working on intervals of seconds and thirds with double vertical strokes, which really require the performer be attentive to their hand position to make sure that they're not adjusting that angle of the hand to keep that smaller interval, which can be a little bit more challenging. Some single independent strokes. These single independent strokes are seen more in a scale, single line type situation or context, as opposed to earlier where they're more isolated melody notes with one hand at a time. And then this is the first piece that works double lateral strokes. And in this case, it's very much an arpeggio situation. And so working on that double lateral stroke over 16th notes with a fairly comfortable permutation of 1, 2, 3, 4. So the lowest mallet in the left hand, the middle mallet, left hand, middle mallet, right hand, and the upper mallet in the right hand. So a fairly comfortable permutation, 1, 2, 3, 4, over a relatively static but somewhat moving arpeggiated passage. So that's the fourth one in the etude. The fifth piece in this collection is Chorale Without Time. Actually something I originally self-published independently, but then found would work great within this collection as rather than as a standalone solo. And so this is a chorale. It's a very simple chorale. The notation is set such that they're, all the notes are rolled. It's mostly half notes and quarter notes, but the time signature changes fairly actively. The first measure is in 4, second measure is in 3, the next 2 measures are in 4. So it's consistently changing time signatures. So the piece kind of fluctuates. It's certainly not boxy in terms of predictability as far as where the notes will move and when the chords will change. A colleague of mine referred to it as similar in nature, I guess, to Evelyn Glennie's A Little Prayer, which I considered a fantastic compliment. Is certainly shorter than that, a little bit more accessible than Evelyn Glennie's piece, but intentionally designed to be just simplistically beautiful in that respect. So the intent of this piece, of course, is just the musical concept of being able to play, well, I guess the musical and technical concept of being able to play a chorale on marimba, be able to create sustain and that lush full sound on the instrument as you change notes. So it can be played with hand-to-hand rolls, although in the exercises there's also some permutations for developing sequence rolls, which could be applied either through the whole piece or in selected portions of this piece. The next piece is entitled Groove. Not surprisingly, it's based on a groove. It incorporates some double lateral strokes, some single alternating strokes, and some double vertical strokes. So a good mix of strokes. It is very much groove based and incorporates some more advanced rhythmic concepts, some syncopation, some 16th note triplets, and certainly some rapid arpeggios that cover a little bit wider range of the marimba. But it's very repetitive. There's also some single independent strokes in octaves, so inside mallet of one hand, inside mallet of the other hand, and executing those octave unison figures, or I guess not unison, but displaced by an octave melodic figures between the two hands, so working on that concept. The final piece in this collection, Baka Juba, was actually written originally as a test piece for auditions for the Arizona All-State Percussion Ensemble, probably about a dozen years ago. And so in that context, it was very specifically intended to be a short etude, about a minute and a half, if that, that incorporates all of the stroke types, all four: double vertical, single independent, single alternating, and double lateral, within a short, collection. It also changes time signature quite a bit. Some, like the Chorale, set in 4 and 2, has a variety of rhythmic figures: 16th note, 8th note, 16th note triplets, and very much intentionally mixes all the stroke types on both manuals of the keyboard, intentionally able to kind of serve as, again, a test piece of being able to master all of those techniques in a short package. So there's my book, forFour. Many of these etudes are recorded and on YouTube. Some performed by myself and some by other students that have presented and uploaded those. Encourage you to check it out. It's a great collection to really get a grasp of four mallet technique in an etude approach before tackling some larger solos. forFour. Hope you enjoy it. Have a great week.